Okay, so this is ChoirDelay. What it is I was trying to create sort of a polyphonic looper delay thing. This is a really succinct and good explanation that I'm going to stick with, a polyphonic looper delay thing. So what it is essentially it's three always recording loopers set to play once that are in time with a tape delay effect. So these little buttons here pick which voice is active on that step. So right now that's all of them, which can be a bit much. You can set just one of them. So these set the pitches. The center one is set to no pitch change. The first pitch is set to a fifth up. The third pitch is set to an octave up. So you can create sort of sequences. And then on either side of these are reverse options, and that's per voice per channel. So you can reverse the right side, but not the left side. So whenever these are on, it's reversed. So this one, the right side is reversed. On these two, the left side is reversed. You can have them all reversed. Or none. So I set it up like this because you create interesting sort of ping pong effects as one voice is going, down in the natural decay, and the other voice on the other side, the same looper or the same pitch, is going up. And so I thought it was an interesting way to sort of fill out the stereo space and create some interesting panoramic effects. Your opinion of that may vary, but I think it's cool. And then these are just what you have here are a mix level delay mix. So you can set this to be fully wet or some combination of them. Feedback amount. And then up at the top, we can set the total number of steps. So you see it'll only blink through to cyan or cyan. I don't know how that's said. And when there's nothing selected, it goes back to 4 steps, or when this is selected, doesn't matter. But you have to deselect them. If this is selected and this is selected, there'll be 1 step as soon as it goes back around. So you can only have 1 button pressed at a time. And that's the control set. I was having some issues with clipping, so I didn't include MIDI. This is tap tempo right now. But if you want to add MIDI, this is where you would add it. This stomp switch goes into an LFO, and the LFO is sort of the master clock for everything. So if you want to add MIDI, that's where you would do it. And that's basically, and one other thing is if you down. The feedback, which is a tape style feedback, or a tape style delay, will increase to maximum and begin to get quite loud, and it's a nice sort of momentary effect. Probably one other thing I should show is, you can do more than just sort of delay things. I think it creates a really interesting tremolo sort of sound when you really push the speed. That has this pulsing quality. So anyhow, that's ChoirDelay, and I actually built that before I built ChoirVerb, but it's the same idea. You may notice some things missing from the top, like the indicator light and the ability to select the number of steps. That's because CPU was a nightmare for this. I thought it was really stable, and then as I was finalizing it to get it ready for sending out to all of you, I came into clipping problems after clipping problems after clipping problems. So it's the same idea, except for instead of ending with a delay, you end with a plate reverb. You're tied to 4 steps, and I'll say right now that trying to run all of the pitches on the same step being stable for me now, but it's not always stable. Same idea, you select pitches on this side. You can select the reverse for each looper, mix control, mix for the reverbs only on the wet side, so you can set that to fully wet, and it creates an interesting sort of shimmer verb. And if you hold the middle stomp switch a lot like its partner in crime, this will max the decay of the plate reverb and hold the sound until it's released. And while I'm looking at this, I'm going to throw a pixel on the front page just so you can tell what the speed of the sequencer is. So similar idea, but with a plate reverb instead of a tape delay, which I think changes the sound quite dramatically. It takes it from being much more focused on sort of modulation and tempo, and much more focused on like texture and pitch. So anyhow, those are the choir patches. And again, if you want to change it to MIDI, it's the same spot on both patches. There were clipping issues, and I didn't want to add modules that were not absolutely necessary. So if your use case requires MIDI, it's easy to add like I said, just go to the page with that LFO, and where the stomp switch goes in, you put a MIDI clock in module, and it should work with the CPU for one or the other, and probably for both. But when I start coming into experiencing clipping issues, I just get pretty cautious because I don't want to put out something that clips, at least not on purpose. So this one, again, sometimes with all three voices, it can also clip. It depends on how fast the loopers are going. That affects the amount of CPU used. So anyhow, I think they're cool, patches that can give you a sort of feel or atmosphere, and I hope you enjoy them.